Hey, Laura J. here on October 21st, 2024 with Leveling the Playing Field, Ode to Laura Lees, Dispelling the Legal Fiction and Its Faulty Origins. This is the current version, and amendments will be made after the reading of this and the unpacking of it Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. for the next 7 weeks. So join if you can. The journey of awakening is unpredictable, unique to and for us all, and is enlightening where it comes to our own growth. This course is about overcoming bullying by naming the pattern for what it is and identifying how the mainstream narratives we've been conditioned to accept without challenging, lest we get persecuted in the process of doing so, have kept us bound to lower states of awareness than we have the ability to access until shown the way through limiting BS. We'll dig deeper into the creative liberties others have taken to present the world in a particular way using the ordering of things to benefit the metaphoric house we didn't realize we were under. And we'll break down words in creative ways to dispel hidden truths we didn't consider before seeing them laid out plainly, as in this course. The spells of the legal fiction will be challenged for their spelling in order to see what they are really selling and who they are. And then we're going to spellcast something better instead of what we were willing to accept before we realized the true value of our creative nature. This is not only a game-changing program, it's the league changer. So let's shift together. With love, Laura J. P.S. Rome is an acronym for the reality of my empowerment that we can each tell when we own our own story, and will be a reoccurring theme throughout this course. Introduction to the mental nature of language and Laura Lees. The truth is stranger than fiction is a true statement indeed, and efforts to expose the fraud have drove many a sound mind mad because of the feed we've grown to believe we need. News feeds are the social media equivalent to farming feedlots that hold the chattel in wait because of the bait that leads domesticated animals to their downfall. So what made us think our animal nature wouldn't do the same to us if we didn't get our act together and take action to save our souls before the karmic roll was called? The depth and breadth of the evil that lives in a backward way is mind-blowing, because the only real way out is in, which is a divine paradox we've struggled to wrap our minds around until now. In order to change the game, we must understand the one we're already playing, and that's what this disillusioning and enlightening tale, in the form of this course, discourse, is designed to help you do. We will break down words in creative ways to expose the spells each word compound forms in relation to the legal fiction that a whole diction was crafted around that only specialized eyes knew how to interpret. Interpretation leads to interpolation, which is the process of giving someone or something an identity. And what you will be unable to not notice once you've been noticed of it are the entities that have been invited into your consciousness through the identities you have adopted as if they were true. A new language is being introduced in this course, using the very principles that previously packed source into a 1D box of identity to make us believe in false idols and ideologies coined by courses and external sources that were designed to divide and conquer the mind, body, heart, and soul for the conquest of us in the name of them. Conquest is the subjugation and assumption of control of a place or people by use of military force. Every word can send us down a rabbit hole of never-ending questions, quest ions, which is the trap of consciousness overall. That said, the mind is a problem-solving machine that loves complexity, problem-solving, and pattern recognition, so long as there is an end in mind, with an award for discovery when all is said and done. So while the prize is not quite so cut and dry as a standard course with a certificate could present to be, this course will help you call your energy back present from all the entities that have been feeding off of your energy without your even noticing. And in the process of reclaiming your power, you will learn the true power of lawful notices you can use to right wrongs once they've been noticed and remedy has been deemed required. The law has been capitalized on for reasons you will soon see, instead of stand underneath, as a harmful version of that which has been served just as cold as ice by bought and paid for justice systems is exposed. Systems are designed to save you significant time, energy, money, and struggle, which is precisely what this course has been crafted for the purpose of, for the sake of all who wish to make it out of this life more whole instead of less. Language is the land gauge used to measure and maneuver the territories we find ourselves in, and Hyro's prism is the mental plane that has captivated us through our consciousness with an aim to corrupt our conscience by the counterfeiting of all things. Except it didn't go by that name until I, Laura J., coined it that way. This linguistic adventure will play with the ledge we've known based on knowledge at the expense of creativity. Creativity and reactivity use the same letters in a different order, with completely different implications. And so instead of sharing theories about the deceptions of this www.url, I'll be using the patterns to prove my point in the process of exposing them. This language has been coined Laurelese because it is designed to expose all the areas we have unknowingly been spellcast by, forms we thought were harmless until their hidden meanings were brought to light. It is a working language because it is designed for the layman to work with as we grow and learn to row together. Furthermore, to keep it real, we will use relatable, ethical, altruistic, and loving intent to frame all that is shared herein with acknowledgement to all who have made noble efforts to dispel the belief systems that have entrapped us all through the counterfeiting of all life on planet Earth and beyond. Are you ready for this journey into uncharted territory that we are charting a course through together? The journey of empowerment is not what we were taught or thought by those wishing to stay in Hyro's prism without having a name for the plane we've been playing in. Yet now that it has one, I believe we can craft a course that transcends the discourse we've been getting caught up in the frequency nets of. What say you? Let's dig into the meat and potatoes of this hearty soup for the soul. Language and the way it's constructed and misconstrued. Language is the principal method of human communication, consisting of words used in a structured and conventional way and conveyed by speech, writing, or gesture. The creator of the language gets to make up the rules for that particular language in a linguistic and grammatical game that users tacitly agree to follow in order to communicate with one another using a common medium. This is where the concept of jurisdiction stems from and why every language is able to follow its own rules. Juris is a Latin word that means of law or of right. Diction is the choice and use of words and phrases in speech or writing. When there is more than one language used on a page or document, then there is a question of jurisdiction because it's unclear whose rules need to be followed. This fundamental issue is vital within the legal fiction that has its own counterfeit diction called legalese, which is part of the inspiration behind the creation of Laurelese. Legalese refers to specialized terminology and phrasing used by those in the legal field within legal documents, which opens Pandora's box for all the world to see. Once we distinguish between legal and lawful, as we will do soon, but for now, there are some basic components of language to be aware of. Linguistics is the scientific study of language and its structure, including the study of morphology, syntax, phonetics, and semantics. Science is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. It originally came from the Latin word scientia, which meant knowledge, a knowing, expertness, or experience, but by the late 14th century, science meant in English collectively agreed upon knowledge, not limited to any one area or domain. Grammar is the whole system and structure of a language, or of languages in general, usually taken as consisting of syntax and morphology, and sometimes also phonology and semantics. Syntax comes from the ancient Greek word for coordination or ordering together, and is the study of the sentence structure and the rules of grammar. It is the rules that govern how words are arranged in a sentence. Morphology is the study of the internal structure of words, including inflections that change the form of a word, typically the ending, to express a grammatical function or attribute such as tense, mood, person, number, case, and gender. Phonology is the study of the patterns of sounds in a language and across different languages. Phonetics is the study and classification of speech sounds to segment sentences and words into parts. Semantics is the study of how sentences change the individual word meanings in relation to the whole. Semiotics gives context to semantics and syntax in order to create a language made of signs or words that become signifiers with applied meanings. Sign is anything that communicates a message to the interpreter of it. Signifier is a sign's physical form, such as a sound, printed word, gesture, or image symbol. Signified is the interpreted meaning or idea assigned to a sign. Sign language thus requires both the elements of a sign to serve as the signifier and a signified meaning to be applied to it for the language to be established. What most people have not been aware of is the fact that capitalizing more than one letter within an English word changes its status from English to Dog Latin, which is considered a sign language that follows different rules. Legal professionals are aware of this grammatical faux pas, to one degree or another, I suspect, but given I lack access to the rules governed by the Law Society, I can only speculate until confirmed by a member of the club. Law is a set of rules that are created and enforced by social or governmental institutions to regulate behavior, which is where manorialism, feudalism, statism, syncretism, and idealism lead us into high-rose fixed PRism. Emperors and his henchmen of the hegemonic priesthood order. Hans Christian Andersen is the pen name for the creator of many fairy tales that were told to children as a way to deliver a powerful moral alongside a relevant and captivating story to a captivated audience about familiar characters, archetypes, within a culture that has grown accustomed to lies, which is precisely what the tale of the Emperor with no clothes still is about. In the story, two charlatans come to town pretending to sell a magical material that was allegedly invisible to those who did not deserve their position of public office. So naturally, anyone that couldn't see the material didn't want to admit to the fact they couldn't see the material, because that could result in public acknowledgement of insufficiency for the position held within public office. This played on people's insecurities and fears of being unworthy, which made the charlatans rich and left the emperor and his crew looking ridiculous, yet still in charge over those deemed wards based on their willingness to be represented by fools wearing professional attire. Once an innocent child told the truth that everyone could plainly see, the ones in the parade carried on acting as if nothing was wrong, and the people felt gaslit into questioning themselves and what was really going on. Even though the emperor was naked while pretending to show off an invisible suit he'd paid a lot for, his team continued upholding the illusory canopy, full of flags, to keep up the charade because admitting they lied or were fooled is not comfortable to the ego. The charlatans were able to swindle the emperor and his council because they let their insecurities call the shots and pretended to see things they knew weren't really there. Then they got trapped in their own lies and didn't know how to get back with their reputation left intact. Instead of admitting the truth and accepting that they had shared belief systems with others they no longer believed, some people seem to double down on the lie, like the emperor and his cronies did when the spell was broke and everyone realized he really was simply naked. Titles, statuses, and personages are the equivalent to the emperor's expensive clothes, made from invisible fabric and thread. They may dress us up and make us seem more desirable as a package to some, but at the end of the day, when we go to bed, none of that really makes a difference to how comfortably we sleep, except to afford higher quality sleeping conditions that often feel empty if we've had to compromise our integrity to get there. These titles, statuses, personages, and designations are how we're converted into the thing we did before we're implied to be the status holder, and thus are subject to the liabilities, responsibilities, obligations, and duties related to the status. This is how we have been incorporated into smaller and smaller boxes of identity, with more limitations imposed upon us with every new label we take on. Prosocial lies. Prosocial lies involve the transmission of information that misleads and apparently benefits the deceived. By the estimation of the guide who misleads for the sake of cultural customs, traditions, rites, and rituals, others would be indoctrinated by too. Like the myth of Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, or Easter Bunny, these innocent childhood myths were tall tales we were told as children while we questioned the lie and finally got a straight answer, usually with the expectation of being a good sport and agreeing to deceive others to believe the same false information until their doubt outgrows their trust of the source of the lie too. Little did we realize it was all designed to condition us for bigger and better things down the line. The current corporatocratic model has been supported by this part of our indoctrination training because even as children, we took on the roles of characters we idolized and wanted to play later in life. So we would dress up and make pretend we were the thing we wished to be, that being the role we emulated. A corporatocracy is an economic, political, and judicial system controlled by business corporations or corporate interests. Hence all the ways the government make concessions for their corporate kin, like banks, at the expense of the people paying the price energetically. Cide, C-I-D-E, is a suffix that denotes a person or substance that kills or an act of killing. This isn't a blame game, nor does shame or guilt for going along with the lie help in recovering from the loss of identity we are all subject to when a familiar reality is no longer available to or there for us. We've all been doing the best we could to get ahead or merely keep our head above water, and the aim of the game, I reckon, we start playing is the one that frees us from all the traps that lies of any kind, even well-intended ones, have captivated us by without blaming the ones who duped us or deceived us. For if we cannot forgive them, we create unseen strings that keep us locked in Hyro's prism after this life is over and another begins. This is an opportunity to call back soul fragments that would otherwise be trapped in not now moments or tied to someone we had an intense emotional connection with, for better or worse, which could be a nightmarish reality based on the shadows that follow us into the light. Notice the similarity between dominion, domination, and domination with an @ sign. And don't tell me to spell it out for you when we're going to do it together through the coming lessons into an alternative path through life from the perspective of the hermeneutic prism, PRism, and hermeneutics generally. Hermeneutics, hegemony, and mind control. Hermeneutics refers to the interpretation and understanding of material through analysis of possible meanings and social uses that assist in interpreting and understanding the moral principles that natural law enthusiasts believe are embedded in the nature of human beings and our view, map, and model of the worlds we live and work within. The process of interpreting and applying natural law principles to contemporary ethical dilemmas involves hermeneutic considerations of general principles connected to morality, justice, and human rights, and their applicability to certain situations or cases. Hermeneutics can contribute to a more nuanced and contextually sensitive interpretation of a situation by shifting perspectives from standing in the forest as one enmeshed in the situation compared to standing outside of it and seeing it from a higher vantage point. Different cultures and historical periods may interpret and apply natural law principles differently due to the head of that metaphoric household's goals, wishes, or preferences. They get to set the precedent, standard of care, using codes of conduct, tools of measurement, and methodologies that support the domain they are master of. The double hermeneutic is the theory that everyday layman concepts and those from the social sciences have a two-way relationship understood differently by different sections or sects of society. These understandings have become a criterion for demarcating the human social from the natural sciences by dividing society into groups of those who know the bigger picture, those who think they know, those who don't know where to find the truth or what to trust, and those who don't know and don't care. Complacency and complicity are what have allowed a two-tier society to thrive while the majority have been living at the baseline level of survival. Feelings of helplessness, victimhood, and disempowerment empower the power imbalance being exposed within this course because they make us feel unimportant, insignificant, and unable to call for change in the way we must if we are to reclaim power over our own lives. And while they have received a lot of blame over the last few years in particular, this reference is to the feelings that directly drive our actions and inaction. The term hermeneutic prism could be metaphorically used to describe the various perspectives and lens through which individuals interpret and understand texts, ideas, or experiences based on personal perspectives, experiences, and influences. This prism forms the prison of our own perspective. We just weren't expecting our perspective to be influenced by the hegemonic priesthood we didn't know about. Hegemony. A hegemony is when one dominant group holds influence over the social, cultural, ideological, or economic influence exerted by an assumed authority over others by de facto right of claim. De facto is a legal term that is often used to describe something that exists in fact as evidenced by the details and is enforced by policyholders, upholding the rules and orders of the ones above them, even if it is not officially recognized or a legally established action. Normalization is how nation states normalize lies to seem normal to our eyes, and why a de facto leader effectively leads the group in practice, even if they may not rightfully hold the official title or position of what they're acting as. It's also why most professionals practice their craft without calling it a craft. Crafts have been diminished as creative activities for children and adults that produce a craft or a finished product at the end. Crafts also refer to a specified occupation or trade that involves specialized skills and training. The word craft can also be used to refer to a vessel, boat, or ship in nautical terms. The meaning depends on the context in which the word or term is used and can easily be misconstrued if you don't know what is what, where, when, why, or how it is being used. Reappropriation is a process by which a group or community takes back, redefines, or reclaims a term, symbol, or cultural element that has been historically used to marginalize or stereotype them and can be a deliberate and empowering act aimed at challenging negative associations to promote a positive self-affirming identity instead. By doing so, the community aims to reshape the meaning of these elements and use them in a way that reflects their own identity and values in an empowering way that allows marginalized groups to assert control over how they are represented by challenging stereotypes imposed on them by others. Counter-hegemony. Counter-hegemony is an attempt to critique or dismantle hegemonic power by challenging, confronting, and opposing existing status quo and its legitimacy in politics and all public offices that influence identities. The theoretical aspect of the theory-practice nexus is essential to effective organizations, making intellectuals valuable contributors in the establishment of new rules, order, and social norms. Counter-hegemonic groups of people do not start off as radical or extremist groups, for they encourage people to share their view against hegemony through the use of persuasion and or propaganda whilst raising awareness. It's actually what the Socratic method of asking questions is based off of, which is befitting given he is said to be the founding father of Western philosophy, even though he didn't have a surviving body of work after his death sentence. Once the counter-hegemonic group has gained enough support and consensus against the current powers, they could then attempt to overthrow them, whether through violence or democracy. Critical terrorism studies seeks to understand terrorism as a social construction rooted in counter-hegemonic and politically progressive critical theories that is applied to certain violent acts through a range of political, legal, and academic processes. It also seeks to understand and critique dominant forms of counterterrorism, despite the legalized and normalized nature of fraudulent activity in modern times. Categories. The notion of essential predication is connected to what are traditionally called the categories, as the word category means predication, which is distinctly different from predicates, for one is describing a process, while the other implies we are the thing we did before that label consumed our whole identity. Aristotle is famous for having held a doctrine of categories based on predication of an event caused by an accident, a genus, a peculiar property, or a definition that divided categories into kinds of predicates, which can be divided into classes or groups based on shared demographics. A genus is a class, kind, or group marked by common characteristics or by one common characteristic. The categories can be seen as classifications of predications that predicates could be subject to because the word relations and associations make a huge difference depending on how a predicate is related to its subject. The categories may be seen as kinds of entity with perceived substance as the highest genera, or things of kind that are in existence. A given thing can be classified under a series of progressively wider genera to expand the identities related to as part of one's prescribed identity with certain contexts based on relationship dynamics. Each falls under no other genus, and each is completely separate from the others. This distinction is of critical importance to Aristotle's metaphysics, for it denotes a class, kind, or group marked by common characteristics or by one common characteristic. The figures of predication are significant and why home economics must be prioritized in the lives of those consumed by the world of economics and all that it entails. Mind control. The Monarch program is a key component of the MK Ultra program, which stands for mind control, and Ultra signifying the highest level of classification. This has been labeled a conspiracy theory to dissuade law-abiding citizens from looking into the code name for a series of mind control experiments and programs conducted by the United States Central Intelligence Agency from the 1950s, designed to research and develop techniques for mind control, behavior modification, and interrogation. Iroh's prism became the metaphoric game board that represents the public affair that we have all been complicit in by not speaking up about, an injustice or indignity we have noticed without knowing what to do about a lie that the majority seem to be going along with. When we recognize that something we're involved in could harm or injure someone, then it is our duty to our conscience to cease the activity and help our fellow player of the game. And when we're competing against others vying for the same energetic resources, then we don't generally have time to help them without setting ourselves back in the process. Many professionals who rose to the heights of their profession before the year of hindsight, 2020, came face to face with the invisible glass ceiling of Hiro's prism when they realized that the licensing body, union, church, or other group they identified with were willing to go along with the lie that was normalized by the hegemonic priesthood and all of its shared corporate powers. My story and why I believe in the power of this information. Hi, I'm Laura J., and I created this course in order to tell a tale that's never been told before, as I have here. The name is my trademark. I chose it for myself to reflect my full name all in one. Laura is my given name, Jean and Ellen are my two middle names, and Hamilton is my surname or patriarchal lineage's brand name equivalent. If I were ever to get married, my surname would be replaced by my husband's name if we were to follow traditional practice, which is unlikely. Then Hamilton would be referred to as my maiden, unmarried name, while the last name I took on at marriage would replace it and be called my married name. The reason I'm making a big deal about my name at the start of this course is because there's a lot to a name. Knowing the story behind someone's name and the aliases they choose to go by offers a lot of insight into the character of a person because it reflects the part of themselves they are willing to share at face value. It reflects the front they're showing based on who they want someone to believe them to be, and the same is true for us. In 2011, I got certified as a coach, trainer, and speaker with the John Maxwell team and moved to England to live with one of the faculty members of the program for nearly 4 years after meeting at my certification event in West Palm Beach, Florida. I grew a tremendous amount from this experience and broke free from the traditional thinking of my family and community back home because it opened doors I wouldn't have otherwise known to access. When I returned from England in 2015 after that relationship ended, I became a program coordinator with the JMT, selling the program I was heavily involved with until 2017 when I decided to strike out on my own. By parting ways with the group, I felt the effects of losing the identity I had crafted around being a JMT member. In searching for a replacement for the void this disconnect caused, I tried joining several MLM multi-level marketing groups I didn't stick with, traveled to connect with a new group of interest who prompted me to start writing my first book, and became aware of my pattern of placing my power outside of myself, which I spoke to in Fully Committed, the Sacred Sojourn of Now, that was finally published in 2022. Part of the reason it took so long to finish was because on September 27th, 2019, I made a call that changed it all for me and altered my perspective of myself, the world, and the people in it. I couldn't believe it when I realized that the only real difference between the cops, courts, councils, crown agents, and gangs were legalities and jurisdiction. And by trying to go to the top to remedy that fact based on the insanity I've laid out here, without the title or status to suggest I'm qualified for such a task, I got sectioned under the Mental Health Act, which I have come to see as the modern age witch hunt legalized and normalized. I learned firsthand that the system is designed to break the spirit of the individual and create dependents who rely on a benefactor that serves itself first and foremost. A summons for speaking at a rally in 2021 gave me cause to learn the power of the true common law to deal with fraudulent charges and the importance of living in the private, which is what this course reveals. Then, in November 2022, when I got the intuitive drop that the Justinian deception is significant and started down that rabbit hole, It led me down many others in the year and a half it consumed my focus and helped me piece together the tale I am sharing here. I have taken creative liberties to reframe familiar stories in new ways that tie them together as never before, because that's what creators can do, and I believe we are now being called to take our creative power back from all the places, people, and things we have given it to because of the identities we have gained by doing so. Being a truth teller or whistleblower can be a dangerous role to play in this realm if acting alone. But the tides turn when we learn to take up our pens to right wrongs we will no longer stand for, as I did then and now with this portrayal of the truth from my perspective. My desire is for this to be a resource for those who wish to know the pattern underneath the problems, so we can destabilize the corrupted foundation upon which the hegemony of present times is based. And if you can help fill in gaps I didn't notice, please email me. Please email me at laurajeh@piwu.ca. Thank you for daring to do your part of course correcting what you notice is off the mark, in this course and in the world at large alike. Your contributions have consequences for your soul, and I wish for you to leave more whole. It's an incomplete sentence, but it's complete. What's required to level the field of consciousness? In order to end the insanity of the Moderna times we're living in, we need to be able to discern truth from fiction and essentially hold anyone holding an office of public position liable, accountable, and responsible in their private capacity, where we always have a conscience, consciousness, and free will to choose our actions. The universe doesn't differentiate between negatives, it just gives us more of what we're focused on, hence the adage, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So if that is true, and we are thus giving our energy to the things we focus on, how does the quality of your choices match the quality of life you are presently enjoying, or are not enjoying? Mental constructs, ideas, only gain energy when we give the idea our energy to empower it. First, we take an idea and bring it into existence in the material plane by backing it with our energy, power. By devoting some of our time, energy, effort, attention, and money toward it, this investment of our team grows the idea and gives others a chance to learn about and buy into it too. For example, Peaceful Inner Warriors United is an initiative I brought into existence. By repeating it enough times, it became an initiative people can join via the Telegram and Facebook groups created using the name brand to make it recognizable to those who want to be part of it too. If I was focused on profits more than people, we could sell branded merchandise and create opportunities for members to show their level of belonging, commitment, and affiliation with and to the group by buying all the things we put our branding on. But that wasn't the reason it was formed. I was even encouraged to create my own blockchain currency for it so members could buy vouchers to be cashed in through the platform this technology would be offered through, yet I declined to avoid contaminating the essence of what this group is meant to be about. I'm framing it this way to demonstrate how people get invested in brands that become part of our identity. By creating a place to go and a logos to build brand awareness, I gave form, existence to an idea that was only in my head and heart until I formed it in the 3D world where we live. Advertising, promotion, publicity, public relations, sales, and marketing are all branches of a related beast that must be managed and maintained to treat all involved with respect, dignity, grace, and honor. To level the playing field of consciousness in the mixed war we are presently in, I believe we need to leave be those ideas that have been changing our identities by inviting corporate entities into our sense of self. When a man or woman is stripped of a title, status, or position they derived identity from and had a place to contribute value to while in it, the experience can feel devastating. Yet that's because our sense of reality has been hijacked and our nervous system hacked as a result. It is time to learn to settle our own nervous system so we can practice feeling less nervous in a world of nonfiction that has implied itself to be more real to us, who must step into counterfeit realities to gain these identities that invite associated entities in with them. There are many keys outlined here that will take time to realize with real eyes after all the years we've had the wool pulled over our eyes, which spelt backwards is low indeed, because it keeps us on a hamster wheel of enslavement that we've all been prey to until we knew who and whose we truly are. This is neither religious nor spiritual specifically because it's been designed to help you see the signs that have speared us all with the spirit of lies that have masqueraded as truth using the guise of nonfiction. Are you ready to go deeper? Are you ready to go deeper? The Special Practice Self Care Framework. Well, then,